welcome in to today's stream of Little Learning Machines. Little Learning Machines Live, I think is what we're dubbing this for now. My name's Fiona. I'm the community manager here at Transitional Forms. Been a lot everywhere in the Discord, so you may have seen me around. LLLL, exactly, Little Learning Machines Live. And yeah, so today is going to be a stream about like kind of how to get started in the game and how to start training your little machines that you encounter. For those of you who don't know, Little Learning Machines is a cozy artificial life sim where you have to train these adorable little robots to complete different quests and unlock more worlds and explore this crazy planet that they are on. So each of these little machines has its own neural network. Therefore, when you're training them in the game, you're actually training real little AI. So that's kind of a little logline on the game and what we're going to be chatting about today. But I'll pass it over to Dante to introduce himself and then to Nick.
Hey, I'm Dante. I'm one of the developers of the game. I worked on all the technical systems, so I can talk a bit about how some of this stuff works. Also designed some of the quests, so we can get into them in a bit. Nick.
Hello, I'm Nick. Also co-directed this with Dante and mainly worked on the visuals and kind of love the concepts and, have my, hands on everything in this project. But very excited to just go over some of the basics and then in the future streams going into some more hardcore things. But yeah, I think it's a good plan to just go over some of the fundamental things about it.
Totally. So yeah, today we're going to be starting from scratch. So this is a perfect stream to watch if maybe you've downloaded the game, you haven't clicked open yet, or maybe you've opened it and like, oh, I want to come back later. This is a great starting point with some great tips and tricks on how to train your machines. So let's start off with kind of explaining like what it means. Each one of these little guys has a neural network. What does that even mean? Dante, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. In most games, you play the way that the characters move has been programmed by some programmer. In this case, these robots are not programmed. We have never taught them how to do anything. The first time you play the game, they're just moving randomly, and then slowly, as you train them to do things, they start moving in a way you teach them to. What's fun is you can have other things flying around, like dogs, that are completely programmed by us. So you get to see the difference between kind of AI that has been programmed and AI that is that you teach as you play the game.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's cool to know, and it's a cool little concept that each one of these little things like has that inside of it. How would you say that there's like to train these in real life, like to train a neural network in real life and training them in the game, like how are they similar? Like how is that a similar task?
Yeah, so this is pretty much when you're playing the game, you're doing the same kind of work that like as I used to do in university, which is like you start up some sort of environment and it's like, oh, go train. And the difference is in university, it would take all night to train. And you come up the next day and be like, oh, my little agent can kind of move into that corner. That's terrible. I'm going to restart the experiment. So then you would spend like whole weeks or months doing all sorts of training. In Little Learning Machines, you can do this in like a matter of hours, or not hours, like a matter of minutes. So you can be like, oh, I'm going to start training this thing. Oh, no, it's stuck. Or, oh, no, it's not working. And all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I want to change it up a little bit. And when you do that, you can see results in a couple of seconds. So it's very similar. It's a very similar experience. It's a lot of the UI is a lot friendlier. You don't have to write a single line of code. You don't have to memorize arcane command line arguments. You just say, hey, here's some reward functions, and you start training your AI. Awesome. I hope that answers your question, Fiona.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, that's cool. So let's get into how you start off in the game. Like where are we now? What's going on here?
So, well, in this stream, I'm not going to show the whole intro, but I'm kind of going to simulate it, basically to show you basically how it works. But you are on your home island right now with Imogen. She is the kind of like mother crystal, and a piece of her is your little brain, and so that's how you that's kind of how you share dreams in training. So basically, from the main island or from any island, you can always enter your dreams, so you can put the animal to sleep. And in their dreams, this is where they're able to actually train, and you're able to give them rewards, and you're able to kind of like really, teach them what you want, and then bring them back into the real world. So right now, as Dante said, this is how every animo starts off. It's just doing random actions. So what you can see down here in this like little like preview in his thought, this is the action that he is taking. So it's going left, it's trying to grab, it's going down, it's going left, it's trying to talk sometimes, it's trying to do, so it can do all these different actions, and it's just choosing them randomly because it hasn't kind of like figured out where it is or what it's doing or what it should be doing. So that's why you train it. So in order to train it, we go to the cloud. And so in the cloud, there's kind of 4 different spaces that you're able to train in. So you can train multiple animo in a space. You can kind of hold other training spaces like that are dear to you, and bring kind of different ones at different times. But you can also train multiple animo at the same time in different spaces if you want. So if you go into one of these clouds, these spaces, it's pretty basic. And so the main crux of the game is basically bringing in your animo and then deciding what you want to teach it. So fundamentally, the game starts off with the simplest thing, and you continue to train these behaviors throughout the game. But collecting crystals is fundamentally often the simplest, but it's the simplest thing to train, but also sometimes the most rewarding, because crystals can be in very difficult places to get to, and in order to collect them, you're gonna have to teach your animo how the world works, how water works, how heights work, how to use tools to get through things. But in the beginning, let's just make sure that it knows what a crystal is. So right now, it's never seen a crystal before. It does, like I said, it is just going to be taking actions randomly until we start giving it some rewards. So basically, the experience of training goes into 2 parts: setting up an environment that is good for the animo to train in. So like a rich environment to make sure that there's crystals close to it that can actually get rewards, things like that. So setting up the environment, and then basically setting up the rewards for your animo to learn from. So in this case, we just got to give it the simplest reward, which is it loves to crystal collect. So loving collecting crystals is the most simple reward. So every time it collects a crystal, it's gonna get this 1 heart. I could also give it plus 10 hearts, plus 100 hearts. Doesn't really matter because it's the only current reward it has. So it's not that big a deal. If I give it -1, it would most likely learn to avoid the crystals, or most likely jump into the water. But let's start with that. Basically, in this setting over here, this page over here is your kind of training settings. So this means that reset training when no crystals are left, and also reset the training after 100 steps. It's important to reset the training so that your animo always has something to learn about. If you didn't reset the training and it collected crystals, then it could just wander around forever and ever and ever and never pick up any rewards. So we've got to make sure that they collect rewards. So if I hit play, we're going to see that it's going to start. It's taking its random actions for a bit, but basically what's happening is it's going to start getting rewarded for every time it actually collects a crystal. It hasn't collected one yet, so you haven't even seen, it doesn't know what a crystal's even is yet. But basically, oh, there you go. So randomly, this is why I put crystals close to it, is the chances of it just randomly walking into a crystal is what I want. because if I put them too far away, that Animo, when just taking random actions, is very unlikely to even receive a reward. It could just play and play and play and just not get to that reward because it has no idea why. So having them close is really important because right off the bat, it knows what a crystal is. And it started off by averaging about 1.8 crystals per round. And you can see it's doing great. It's already collecting. So basically, like if you want to see the behavior more represented, you can turn up the simulation speed, and you can start seeing that now it's determined. It is determined. It's doing great. Like that took like what, a minute or two, or not even.
Totally.
And now it's boss. It wins every single time. Or there you go. So that's great. It turned out really good. So this is like this most simple version of this quest. So this is kind of like the first thing that you're taught to do in the game. And if you go back down into the main island and you wake up the Animo, now he's back in the real world. He's going right for these crystals. He is going right for these crystals. As you can see here, he has a very small area of vision. So he's going to kind of like move around and try to find the closest crystal. But it can't see anything outside of this box, specifically this Animo. But in the future game, you get Animo with lots of different visions. Some have huge visions, some can only see random things and stuff like that. But Billy Bob's the most basic. He just sees a 5x5 grid around him. And look at that. He's got it.
He's killing it. Okay, so we kind of touched on earlier, like Dante mentioned, like how this would happen in real life, and you showed the graph, but I kind of want to get into like, how does that graph like relate to, like, what is the graph? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So if we go back to the cloud, we can talk about it. Let's put Billy Bob back in here, and let's just hit play, and we can see this happen. So the question is like, there's right now Nick has 12 crystals on the ground. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So I think there's 12 crystals on the ground. So every
13.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 13. There's 13. My apologies. I think Billy Bob had already collected one when I started counting.
I think so.
Yeah. So the question is, how many crystals did Billy Bob collect before it ran out of time? And we can see this number go down. If you hit pause and let's change the deadline. So right now, Billy Bob has 100 turns to collect all the crystals. Let's see how many you can collect in 50 turns. So we'll see that the next time we start training, that number will go down, because I don't think Billy Bob is that good at collecting crystals. Maybe it'll take Billy Bob more. Like the total number of crystals Billy Bob will be able to connect, it'll be less. So let's hit play and let's see how this goes. Yeah, it might start. It might start with something like 10, maybe 9. I think it could do 9 in 50 steps. And you see that little red circle down there at the bottom? It's like counting down. So oh no, it's collecting 11. Okay, but at least it's not like 12, but it's getting pretty good.
Yeah.
In fact, why don't we add more crystals? How many crystals can Billy Bob collect in like in 50 turns?
Yeah.
And we can kind of see it getting better and better and better at that. Maybe it'll get better, maybe it won't.
So what is the red circle? Sorry, like you started talking about it, but I don't.
So yes, you're right. So what we'll see in a second is like the red circle counts down every step. So here we said we have a maximum of 50 steps, so it's going to count down from 50. So when it reaches 0, it's time's up, and the world this little cloud is going to reset, and Billy Bob gets to try again. So what's actually happening is this is happening like 100 times in the background, like a bit like we're resetting a lot of worlds like this. So this graph shows you on average how many crystals has Billy Bob been able to collect within 50 steps in this world. So you can see it's going up slightly. So here in our current world, Billy Bob just collected 14 crystals. So it actually did better than average. So here you got 1 and 2. Nick, if you can increase the speed, we can count a little faster. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
11, 12.
13, 14.
Whoa.
See, this is proving your point. So in this simulation, we're often seeing it get 12, but what it's saying here is 14. So in some other dimension, in one of its training sets, it is also getting 14, 15, maybe even 16 sometimes, which is making that average. We actually have an info panel in this game. This like to help out if you ever want to learn more about reinforcement learning. You don't need to dig deep into this if you want, but basically this info panel explains it in that this one that you're watching is, collecting these like hearts. So it's getting hearts for every time it gets that crystal or for whatever you reward it, and that's that single instance. But in the background, what's happening is you have a whole bunch of these worlds running, the same world, and it's running and running and running. So you get kind of like a whole collection of these kind of these like sets of rewards, and basically every time you get a checkpoint, which is a piece of this graph, it's combining all those different worlds and finding that average, which is currently 14.4. That's why you can have 0.4 collecting crystals. You can't collect half of a crystal, but you can, have an average of that when you have so many background worlds existing at once.
Totally. So
I think our... Yeah.
No, you can go.
I was gonna say, I think our Billy Bob is gonna really good at collecting like crystals. Like it went up from when we started this training. It was collecting like what? Like it's managed to squeeze it. Yeah. So 12.5 and 100 steps, and now it's being able to collect like 15. So it's gone fairly efficient at collecting crystals. So that's what that graph means. It tells you kind of how often this thing that you're rewarding it for happen on average.
Totally. That actually like leads directly into the next question I was going to ask. So besides looking at the numbers, like how can we as the player like look at the graph and know like they're learning? You know what I mean? Because like how do we know? What exactly are we looking for?
Do you see the
basically you want to see the graph go up. it's like the stock market. No, I'm just kidding. It's like you want to see the graph go up, and if the graph kind of starts going down or it kind of stays flat, you're not really improving. It's sometimes very subtle because, like, for example, here where we were trying to collect a bunch of crystals in 50 seconds, there's only so much like your animal can get better at. Like it can't get that much better. I think like 15 might be like the theoretical limit for what it can collect in that space. So you kind of have to be careful to make sure that it's always improving at least a little bit. And if you see here, for example, you have a little spike where we went down. That's an interesting thing because that's the network. That's kind of the network saying, I'm not seeing much success with what I'm doing, so I'm going to try something new. And it kind of fails for a little bit, but all of a sudden it kind of gets better, and it even ends up at a better place than it was before by trying to move towards a slightly better space because it starts doing more random things. But yeah, looking at the shape of the graph is something over time you kind of develop an intuition for what it means, but just as long as it's going up, you're doing okay.
Awesome.
I just want to call attention to these numbers here that kind of gives you a context of how much these guys are training. So currently we've just been training it for a total of 4.5 minutes. So that's we've trained it 4 times in a row now, and that's totaled 4.5 minutes. But if you look at the amount of steps it's taken 162,000 steps, which is if like what we're looking at, like when we were doing this is 50 steps until it resets. So just think of how many times it's played through this, like divide that by 50 and you would get the number of times that it's tried this out. That's why it's able to learn. It's not learning by just trying things like right in front of you. It's doing this like in super speed, as you can tell by that enormous number of steps in 4 minutes.
I wish I could get my step count that high.
It's done this 30,000 times.
Yeah, literally.
That's like a step count for like a year.
Literally, that's awesome. Apple Watch would be so happy with me. That's cool. So can we see, so now that like you both said, like look at Billy Bob, like his chart's all the way at the top, like can we put him back on the main island?
Yeah, so like I said, he was already really good at just collecting these, and so I'll get him to do it one more time. And then I'm gonna try to. So if I bring him over here, he's just gonna collect these. No problem. He's gonna get it. He's gonna make all the right calls. He's gonna go get this one. He's making, but like he doesn't. What's interesting about them is that like it's always doing something weird. Like you're like, why didn't it turn there? Why did it keep going forward? So like this is kind of something interesting where it's been overtrained already. Like I mentioned, in that, like I mentioned in the actual in the number of steps, it's been playing that same level over and over, 162,000 steps in that specific level. So basically, it's not only learned to love crystals, it's also learned that space and how that space is organized. So now it kind of gets confused when you put it back into the real world. So it's not too late for this Animo. We can still save it, I think. But basically, it's still decent at collecting crystals, but it's doing these weird movement patterns. That's because it's probably memorized a movement behavior in the cloud that it is trying to use here to no success. But that's kind of gets advanced, and that's kind of something you'll have to deal with a lot later in game. But say the next challenge would be putting it in a more difficult, dangerous spot. So Animo, they float, but they can't swim. So they just cry when they're in the water. So, but it's never kind of like been trained with water other than at the peripheral kind of area of the cloud. So if it goes in here, what's it going to do? It's going to hopefully try to get these. It might just be able to do it, but he might jump in the water. But he seems like he kind of knows what water is. But as you can see here, it's confused. And the main reason it's confused right now is it's never seen different heights. In the cloud, it's always on the same flat plane. So it's never really seen heights. So when it sees heights or sees deep water like this, and he just jumped in, it gets confused and it doesn't know what to do. So it's when you see an animal spinning around or something like that, that means it's second guessing itself or doesn't know how to make a decision. So it's like leaning on like a safest decision, basically. So the way we can kind of like update that is just make the cloud more dangerous. So this is like the key element will be like, first of all, let's move some of these crystals around so it's a totally different kind of space. So that it won't be the same one it memorized. Put Billy Bob back in here. And it's just like, make some different like holes, different heights,
like make it complicated.
It's not, make it complicated, and basically get it used to the idea that it doesn't need to be scared of shallow water, or it doesn't need to be scared of like hills, maybe a second layer, because it can easily get up that hill. You can also give it like maybe some taller areas. And then so this is already a bit more challenging, but maybe too challenging, we'll see. So I just made this quickly. We can hit play. We can still stick with the same rewards. All it needs is that single reward for now. And maybe let's give it some more time since it's gonna have to navigate that space a bit better. And so I hit training, and it's doing pretty good. It falls in that water. So now that you see it's falling in the water, what we can do is give it a negative reward for falling in water. So this is important to kind of get right. So you can do it in -10 for state, which means itself, and being or becoming. So becoming as in like it will happen when it happens, being it will happen every turn that happens. So either way, for falling in water, it will just be for one turn because it gets reset. So fear becoming stuck in deep water. As soon as it goes into the deep water, we're gonna give them -10 points. But that means that there's going to be -10 and then plus how many crystals it collects. So if it doesn't collect 10 crystals in a round and it falls in the water, that means it's going to have an overall negative reward, which is not ever good. But I can explain that a bit more once we start playing. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this up to 10 as well, which doesn't really make that much sense. But so we're just going to give it a, like this, in this version, we're just giving it a little nudge, like freaking it out when it falls in the water, because if you do that, you can traumatize it very easily. So right now you can see that it's generally falling in the water about half the time, I would say. Because it can only fall in the water once. And so it's 10. So that means -5 is generally half the time it's falling in the water at some point in its training and then resetting the training. But as you can see, it's already going down. -4. It's increasing. It's still averaging quite a few, but -2. So now we're like really good. We're basically learning to never fall in the water. And as soon as that's down to 0, which could happen, might not happen, depending on how much you train, I'm assuming you'll get to 0 very quickly. It's safe to say that it's learned to fear water and it won't step in it anymore.
Cool.
Oh, there you go. It got whoa.
Look at that. It went down and then went back up because it's because we're trying to train it to do two things at the same time. We're saying like, hey, you want to collect crystals, but you don't want to fall into the water. So it doesn't know which to learn more. So as you can see, it falling into the water more kind of let it learn how to collect more crystals. And then it's like, okay, I need it to be more courageous, but maybe not that courageous. I'm going to tone down the courageousness for a little bit. So you can see that these, like, this learning kind of happens in waves, you know, it goes, and here, for example, we see it like kind of like falter at both of them for a bit. So it's trying to move, and then it uses that like faltering to go back up. So I think like it's this kind of like trial and error kind of learning that leads to them being able to just develop intelligence fairly quickly.
Like life.
Exactly.
Life is just trial and error.
Exactly.
Cool.
And so I think like this guy could be ready for that harder version down here. All right, let's get some more crystals down here. It's just chilling in the water.
Sleep, snoozing, floating, living life.
All right. Look at no more indecision, confidently walking around these little bridges, not afraid of anything, not doing any spinny tricks, not confused. Still probably maybe optimized to the level that we built because we haven't added any randomization, but he's doing great. He's doing really good.
He's slaying.
Look at this. Look at that. That was a smart decision to go, like, he's like, I could go that way, but I'm actually going to do this loop around here. So like there's a lot of intention behind their movements. And is it going to be able to do it?
Come on.
Look at that. That's
Come on.
It may have never seen this kind of situation where there's 3 negative blocks. So maybe this was a bit too hard. So this is the importance of creating even harder and harder versions of the level, because what's happening here in the space that I trained it in, they were always just kind of single shoots, just like single dangers. There were never these large areas of 3. So that's probably pretty overwhelming to it. Seeing this kind of large space of kind of like danger, and not necessarily having developed the understanding that you can walk around something. It kind of really makes you think of like the subtleties of learning and the things that we take for granted, of like how complicated learning actually is, and all the subtle details that go into it. But anyway, I'll let him have this.
Totally.
But that's basically the beginning of the game. This is just introducing you to positive rewards and negative rewards, and effectively that you need to, when you have positive and negative, you have to make sure you balance them out, and you'll get, better at that over time. So Fiona, should we move on to the next island and talk about quests?
Yeah, I'd love to. So one thing you're doing throughout the game is you are training these little adorable robots to explore, right? You're training them to explore, unlock things, and travel to different islands. So we're gonna check out Dogbone Island today, which is the first island you travel to that's not your main island. And there are a few different quests on this island, and yeah, do one of you want to kind of explain like how the quests work in the game, if I didn't really touch on that fully?
Yeah, so the quests are these little like markers that you see here. We see two on the screen. There's a blue one in the back, and then there's this little purple one in the front. So each of these are. So when you get to New Island, there's all these like things that Imogen has never seen before, and then they're just like, "Whoa, what's all these things?" So then they come up with like, "Okay, well, since these things are here, we might as well like play with them, see what we can do with them." So these are all kind of like ideas that these are things that you could try to train your robots to do. And then as from a game perspective, this is like trying to say like, hey, here's some ideas of things that you can train your agents to do. You can train your agents to do your robots to do anything, right? But here's some ideas that you might find interesting. So in the first one here at the bottom, if you click it, it kind of tells you what the hint is. It says, oh, you want to move towards the dog and pet it 3 times. So basically we want to pet the dog 3 times. We definitely did not add this quest so that we would appear on a Twitter list. So one of the first things you have to choose is what animal you want to use to complete this quest. So you could use Billy Bob, but Billy Bob is already so good at collecting crystals. If you train it to pet a dog, like you'll miss out on all that cool crystal collecting experience. So there's actually a crystal collecting quest on the back over there that maybe Billy Bob is already good at. But let's try seeing if. So the way you activate a quest is by putting your animal onto a marker, and let's see if Billy Bob can just do this quest. Now, if Nick tries to help Billy Bob by picking him up and putting him at like, it fails. So this is the whole thing. Imogen wants to see the robots do the things, not you. So the whole idea is that, are these robots good enough to do this thing that is kind of sitting here? So, but don't worry, even if you pick it up, you can always just like try again. You can put it back where you put it down at the beginning, and you can try the quest again. So yeah, here we're seeing Billy Bob kind of struggle. It's like, there's a crystal there. I want it. I want the crystal. I want to go there. But it doesn't know that the crystal is high up. It doesn't know that it doesn't need to know that it needs to kind of climb the ranks until it reaches its reward. This is a lesson all of us need to learn at some point in our lives. Yeah, so for example, Billy Bob is just about ready to complete this quest, but it needs a little bit more training. So why teach Billy Bob how to pet dogs when we can use a different animal to pet dogs? So we have Nick has here Digby, and you find Digby kind of just sitting here. Somebody was trying to get Digby to pet dogs and then just left it abandoned here. So we came back and like picked it up, but in doing so, we just gave it a brand new crystal, and it doesn't know how to do anything. So it's just moving randomly, just like Billy Bob was at the beginning. And Digby has a slightly larger vision, so this will be good for tracking down the dogs. And it has like these like 2 compasses. It's already like pointing at dogs and fences, so it's pretty easy going from here. Let's give Digby some training so it can start petting dogs. So so the whole idea is you come in here and you decide, hey, here's the thing we want to do to get Digby to pet dogs. The simplest thing, and this is always a good place to start, is like, I want my robot to do this. You just reward it for doing that. Our AI engineer Danielle is like, this is it. This is all you need. You just need to set this one reward, and then that's it. So yeah, you can just let's do that. Let's train Digby to pet the dogs by just like saying, hey, you like petting dogs, and let's see how that goes. That's usually a good place to start. And then one of the things you want to do is you want to kind of look and see where it gets stuck. But see, the thing is, dogs are friends. Dogs will, oh god. Oh yeah, see, Digby never learned not to fall in water. Yeah. See, dogs will come to you. Sorry, what's up, Nick?
Yeah, and so the dog is actually quite an easy kind of first thing, because the dog likes the animal. It wants to be close to them, so it's never going to run too far away. It wants to play with them and encourage them to follow them, but it's never going to like it might get bored of the animal if the animal's like not learning or anything. But it kind of like it's kind of going towards it, so it gives it a better chance at petting. And even with this graph, you can see like this initial curve is always just like with Billy Bob in the first training, you generally get the biggest curve because it's going from knowing nothing, which is like 0.7 to like 4, and I'm sure in no time it's going to be almost nonstop. But Digby's actually pretty good with this as well because it can see quite far. So with an animal with a smaller vision, the dog might leave its vision and it could be confused. But since Digby has a larger vision, it can kind of keep track of the dog, and therefore, like, look at it now. It's just following the dog. It already knows what to do. And we didn't have to give it any reward or anything like that. There are some more rewards we can give it to make it even better, especially if the dog is outside of its vision. But we can go into that a bit after this. Should we try to just complete this first quest?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because there is a chance that it won't be able to do it, but that's a good thing. All right, go down. Digby, it's your chance.
Go, Digby,
I think
go.
he has to pet the dog 3 times, and like he's gonna go right for the dog. Oh, you got it. You got him. Chase him down.
Make sure you start the quest.
Oh yeah.
Right now you're just chilling.
There you go. Yeah, when you start the quest, it brings them into the right spot.
I love the soundtrack
Come
from
on,
this
Digby.
island.
Oh yeah, this is. I wake up humming this song for the last year. Oh, there you go.
Woo!
We beat it. And we also got a vest, which looks great on Digby. So that's great. So that was like the first version of the dog quest. But as you see, like it's a very open, safe space. Like this is an easy quest. You can just give it one reward. You don't have to give it negative rewards. You just have to wait to make it learn that, for one, it likes being close to dog and it's happy when it pets it. Very simple. But the next quest is over here that gets unlocked. And let's see. So this one's a bit more difficult because as you can see, there's a bunch of cacti in the way. And so the dog's going to run around and then it's going to get potentially stuck because it's never seen a cacti before. This is fundamental to Animo, just like the Billy Bob didn't know what deep water was or didn't know what shallow water was or currently doesn't know what height is and is stuck walking to the wall over there. I think he's still, yeah, he's still doing that.
And now I was
he's still doing that, and he will do that forever until you train him. Like, he's not going to learn in this world. You have to teach him that cacti and heights. But look at, all right, Digby needs to learn that he can't walk through a tree or can't walk over,
or can't pet it either.
Yeah, and also
and not only trees, we got fences too.
Yeah, so there's these kind of obstacles that, you know, maybe if it had an axe later or something, it could chop through that. But right now, it just needs to avoid it because it doesn't have anything else. So let's make this a bit harder. So let's bring Digby back. Let's get Digby in here. We got our doggo. And let's just like add. Like, let's make this hard. Like it's kind of a maze of cacti, and actually, like, let's replace some of these cacti with some cacti with actual fences, just so that it knows what a fence is as well. So this dog's gonna run around in this area, and Digby's gonna want to get close to it. And maybe this is too hard right away. Yeah, I'll just move this guy. And that's
Digby's already a pro.
He's already a pro, so he's going to try to do that. But right off the bat, if I start this, you're going to notice that he's just going to walk straight into this tree no matter what. Because, like I said, it's never done that. So what we can immediately do from there is add a negative reward. And what we can do is, sometimes this is like the most helpful reward, is -1 for movement, which is the foot, and failing to move. which includes like, trying to move but not going anywhere. So that means like walking into something, doing things like that. So every time he walks into that tree, we're gonna be like, stop walking to the tree. But the problem there is if these are both +1 and -1, in order to equal that out, if he walks into this tree 100 times randomly, that's gonna like devastate him. He might be traumatized for the rest of his life.
Let's run it. Let's see it. Let's see it get happen.
There you go.
Look at that. It's just suffering consistently. Because he keeps trying. Oh, look, it pet the dog. Yeah. So
see, look at this graph. This is not good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say this could potentially destroy your animal forever, but it might not. Like, look, it's doing better. It got over its hump.
So one of the things, and one of the things that I think players kind of get stuck on is like, what happens if I mess up my animal? Because like, hey, it's likely gonna get stuck less and less now. It's gonna pet the dog a little bit more. But one of the consequences of doing this kind of like, you don't like crashing into things, is that your animal might stop moving, right? It could still pet the dog when the dog comes to it, but see, right now it's just petting. It's just doing pet, 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 pet. So it's kind of like not really like chasing the dog. It's kind of stopped wanting to move, because trying to move could mean like a lot of fear. So it kind of just waits for the dog to come to it. And this is mostly, and this will kind of get you through the middle quest, but this animal is a little goofy, kind of like just spinning around waiting for the dog to come to it. And when the dog comes, it pets the dog. Like, it knows to pet the dog when the dog is right there. But it doesn't chase the dog. So this is about like, how do you want this guy to behave? So at this point, we've kind of messed up Digby. Digby is kind of scared to move a lot. It as you can see, it kind of like spinning around and like petting the dog. So what if we wanted to try again? Like, what if we wanted to try training Digby again, and see if we can do it right this time by being more careful with fear and more careful with love. So what you can do is, if you feel like you've trained your animal into a corner, hidden away in this little progress thing, there's a reset break button. And if you click that, it'll go through a very painful process of reconfiguring the neural network back into randomness. So Digby's back to 0 steps trained, back to not knowing how to do anything. But we can train it again. Let's do the same thing we did before, which is just like, let's start up a new cloud, and let's just train it to follow a dog. Or yeah, we can also just move stuff away. But like, I guess what I was saying is like, let's see if we can.
Harder, because sometimes you can just like, it all comes down to, like I said at the beginning, like you can do it through a curriculum, just like slowly and steady, or you can kind of throw it into the deep end with the right rewards, which is key, but always with the right reward.
Also,
what
if
do you
anyone,
think, Dante? 10 and -1.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, if anyone has questions, like, not that we're ending right now, but we're coming closer to the end of the stream, so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them, but we'll just keep training away through these quests. I know today we're just looking at Dogbone Island, but is there anything like is there any other sorry, let me restart that. What type of quests should people be like expecting in the first few islands they encounter here, and like what should they look out for when they make their way through these first couple islands?
So, Nick, if you open up the menu for Digby, let's take a look at the nature and the last tab. So far we've seen animal kind of move around, and we've seen them take this kind of like blue button, which is like use. So if the animal kind of stands in front of a dog and like says, I want to press this button, and they press that button, they'll pet the dog. In the islands after Dogbone, you learn about the red button, which is grab. So you can grab things off the ground, and then you can use them, and you can grab all sorts of things. You can grab balls, you can grab like axes, you can grab flowering cans, you can grab flamethrowers. So learning how to teach an animal to grab things and then use them is something that's very important. So splitting up that, and there's a lot of cool things you can do by grabbing stuff. You can gift things to your friends. You can light things on fire. So learning how to grab stuff and how to use the stuff you've grabbed is definitely going to be a fun part of the game, I think.
Cool.
How about you guys? Which quest do you like that we haven't seen yet?
My favorite quests are blockmaker quests. I think the blockmaker is the best. Anything that can manipulate the environment is my favorite. But we just ran into a little problem with Digby, which is because I maybe threw him into the deep end, he's generally kind of developed that same behavior because the dog comes to him and he can kind of stand and just like pet, and then the chance of the dog kind of coming up to him is pretty strong. So kind of what we want to do is like encourage it to not only like fail to move, but to not stand still. Because if you're not standing still, then that will prevent him from just, doing this the whole time. We want him to move around. We want him to follow the dog. And so we can add one more negative reward here, which is standing still. So fear standing still, -1. So this could traumatize it again, but let's see. Silver, yeah, the competitive ones, for sure. I think like on a future stream, I really want to do kind of like a bat competition. I think the bat is my favorite kind of tool. You can do a lot of really fun things, especially if multiple animal have bats. You can set them up into some really interesting spaces. Okay, you can see Digby. He's standing still a lot, but it's petting enough dogs, so this might be too steep of a learning curve. As you can see, it is going up, but it's kind of going down. So it's averaging petting it.
Did you see it jump into the water?
Did it? Oh.
Be careful. This is why it's good to watch them learn, because you can start seeing like, they're jumping into the water. And once they start jumping into the water, you know that they're like trying really hard to stop like getting all that fear.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna last ditch attempt boost the dog to 100, because it was averaging still at least 1. So if it still gets 1, that means it'll get 100 love, and all that fear will be less than the love it gets for petting that dog. If it pets it once, it's gonna be so full of love that all of that pain will be fine. But like this guy might be long gone.
Make the pain worth it.
Yeah. Let's see. Because look at this. He's created this pattern. He gets one pet in, and then he just runs off. He just runs away. And oh. No, it's oh. He definitely chooses to not exist. But
Quick. Oh, wait. So we have options here, right? Like we can decide to stick with this, or we can like immediately try to shock it away from jumping into the water.
Yeah. Oh, true. We could. Oh, there we go. We fixed it.
But sometimes love is all you need.
Look at this.
Love is all you need.
Yes. So now he's moving around, and he's still getting a bit of negative, but he is trying to follow the dog, and he is seeking the dog out now. It's kind of just moving around to find the dog. So there's also ways to just kind of make this behavior kind of like interesting without using fear. Like one thing you could do here is get rid of the fear and still give it 100, and then maybe just do like, I just want to give you +1 for maybe like standing close to the dog. So if it's ever in like the immediate surroundings of the dog, it's just gonna get +1. So then it would just be like, all right, just always be close to the dog. This is something that's like a subtle fine tuning. Like we already see that he's following around, but maybe it could be just add a little bit of a little bit of motivation to kind of be close. But it's doing great.
Love
And
it.
the
pretty
important
sure-
thing is that every time you change the rewards, it's not like it loses the thing it already learned. It's just slightly modifying what it learned before. So changing the rewards doesn't completely reprogram your animal. It just modifies like what it's learning right now.
Yeah, so it's like if you're comparing it to real life, it's like, oh, you learned how to knit, but now you learned the specific stitch, but now, oh, maybe you want to learn a different. I'm learning to knit right now, if you can't tell. But maybe you want to learn a different stitch. And
Just like knitting.
yeah, but basically, it's like you're not forgetting. Like you've already learned it. It's not like you learned the alphabet and then you move on to a different language and you completely forget the English alphabet. Like you're not forgetting everything. You're focusing in on something else and try to improve that specific skill. So that's a good way to look at it.
Totally. And
But there are some things that are kind of antithetical to. I don't know if you've ever seen that video of like Smarter Every Day, where they have a bicycle where if you turn the wheel the left, the bicycle goes right. It's a video, and it turns out you can learn how to ride that bicycle, and then when you do it, it's like really easy. You can ride a bicycle that has like an inverted like steering wheel, but then if you try to go back to riding a regular bicycle, you just can't. So it's one of those things where you don't immediately forget it, but there are some things that kind of conflict with one another. So
Totally.
it's a bit like a little bit like both.
yeah, I think Silver's got a good point with like learning the video games. Like playing different video games doesn't make you good at every game, but basis of knowledge for other games. 100%.
Silver speaking facts.
Yeah, always. So quickly, just to show this again, is like, so we trained it at first. We trained it with +10 and -1 for -1 for failing to move, and this is when it learned how to pet the dog. Then we gave it +10 for petting the dog, but then -1 for failing to move, and also -1 for staying still. So it had already learned to kind of like just sit and pet. And so right when you see this collapsing, it's like not getting any positive and it's not getting any negative. It's like, this is bad sign. So we quickly reversed that. We made this 100, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, he started learning again, and now he's just chilling. Now he's just fine tuning. So we got out of that trap. And basically, let's get him going. Can he do it? Come on, Digby. You got this. Did I ruin you, Digby, somehow? Oh, there we go. Oh, wait, I didn't start the quest. There we go.
Moment of truth.
Make sure to always start the quest. So this is actually something that I may have messed up for him, because I gave him so much reward for just standing near the dog. Digby now is quite happy just standing next to the dog, which is my fault. I ruined him.
You're good.
Did Dante just leave?
I think Dante. Oh, he's back.
My computer may have crashed.
All good.
All right, come on, Digby.
Digby can do it. I got faith in Digby.
I think I ruined him at the end by just making him love standing near the dog too much.
Too much
Shouldn't
of
have loved that.
anything. Too much of anything isn't a good thing.
He got lazy because he knew he could just be rewarded for standing near the dog. Oh my gosh, Digby.
Come on, Digby.
Come on. No, he learned how to just spin, and because the dog will just stand waiting for him, so he learned to just stand there and just enjoy this.
Damn.
And then destroys them.
Don't fall into the same trap, people. Even if you enjoy just being near your pets, be sure to pet them. It's
1000%.
important.
Come on, Digby. Come on.
So we are coming up to the end of our time today, unfortunately. But Digby, it's honestly a good thing that we didn't complete the quest, because now we've given you the skills and we've given you the knowledge of how to complete the quest yourself. So if you try it out in the game, you'll get to see what happens when you complete all the quests on Dogbone Island. We don't want to spoil it, obviously. So give it a shot. Let us know. We're always happy to help out on Discord or anything. Like, just feel free to pop in there and send us a message. Today we really covered just like the basics of training, like how to optimize your little learning machines, how to help them avoid obstacles, how to help them actually learn and not just memorize your training environments. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, we just want to say a big thank you for everyone to coming out today, tuning in to us streaming and walking you through the game. We really appreciate you all so much. If you are enjoying the stream and if you are enjoying the game and are having a good time playing it, we would really, really appreciate it if you left us a review on Steam. It means a lot. We'd love to hear feedback. Like, we just want to hear feedback. We want to hear what you think. So please feel free to pop by there, leave us a review. And we will be doing more of these in the future, more regularly, so keep your eyes peeled on our social media as well as in our Discord. We will be posting when and where these streams will be happening. And yeah, that is, I don't think we have any outstanding questions for today, but thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us today. I don't know if Dante or Nick want to say anything.
Yeah, thanks again. And yeah, next time we'll get into some more advanced quests and then introduce some wiggle, which is something that this guy could have used. And yeah, see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.